In 2015, our next speaker sold his first software company, then wrote a book about it. You purchased over 30,000 copies, making it an instant Wall Street Journal bestseller. Then, he collected data points from 3,000 B2B software CEOs through his podcast. He went on to raise a $145 million fund to do debt deals with software founders who wanted to keep equity. He's financed 403 software founders, totaling $150 million. In 2024, he's averaging 3 to 4 new deals per week. He's a Wall Street Journal best-selling author, an exited software founder, and the CEO and Chief Investment Officer of FounderPath. Please put your hands together and welcome to the stage, Nathan Latka.
Look at this group. You know, I like a nice curated audience, and it makes me a little nervous having Bridget with You Can Book Me in the front row, because I know I can't get away with any bullshit. So she's going to keep me honest here. But very excited to be with you guys today. And I was very pumped when B2B Rocks asked me to come kick off, because I said I've had the privilege of talking to a lot of B2B SaaS founders in Europe, and there are some European companies that are just dominating their US competitors. And I said, what a perfect stage to share that content today. So we're going to focus on these 9 SaaS companies, and specifically, how did this 25-year-old build a $320 million profit and loss statement? I mean, incredible growth here, right? What about this company? How did this SaaS company launch a massive price war with their US competitor? And thirdly, how did this founder use artificial intelligence to add $7 million of revenue very, very quickly? We're going to jump into all these stories over the next 18 minutes, again, focused on 9 specific case studies. Now, I can't take credit for these. The reason we got these is because back in 2015, I launched a podcast. I've interviewed one CEO per day for coming up almost on 10 years. I know I look great, okay, but it's been about 10 years, which is pretty crazy. And I just curate the best moments. And it's very cool for me to be at Station F, because I remember having Matilda on from Front, and she's going, yeah, we launched at Station F, and we grew and grew, and you can see I pointed her out up here, but Front F is a massive success story that started right here at Station F, now well over $100 million of AR. So we're going to curate a bunch of these stories, again, over the next 17 minutes. And the framework I want you guys to think about as we go through how these companies scaled is the following. When I look at all these interviews, I collect the growth tactics that worked. There are only 33 ways to grow your software company. I would challenge any of you to think about your top growth tactic right now. I bet you see it up here somewhere. But having these floating around isn't that valuable. Let's put it in a framework. We're going to have fast on the left and slow on the right. And we're going to put the cheap stuff at the top and the more expensive stuff down here at the bottom. And what's important is how you move through this graph that you're about to see. Right? Every color represents a full-time employee at your company. Yellow is probably your paid person. Purple is probably your BD person. And you can see how the rest are split. But where should you start? Raise your hand if you guys are pre-revenue. You can own it under $1 million of ARR. Raise your hands high. Any CEOs? Okay, hands down. Raise your hand if you're above $3 million of ARR. Raise your hand high. Okay, 50-50. Here's how you want to move through it. If you're bootstrapped and you're just getting going, cash is king. You need stuff to work fast that doesn't require a lot of money. That's upper left. Only after you grow past $1 million of revenue should you move to the upper right, 1 to 3 million. You can invest in things that take a little more time to pay off, but still stay cheap. Don't spend a lot of money. Only after you have more than 3 million of revenue should you test expensive stuff below this line. Right? You got 3 to 5 and then 5 million plus in the bottom right. So think about this framework as we learn over the next 16 minutes from these 9 case studies. And it's all about traffic, first section, leads right here in the middle, and sales on the end. We're going to break down these 9 case studies step by step and spend about 2 minutes on each. Let's jump into traffic first. How do you get free traffic quickly? There's no one better to learn this from than Omnisend. Omnisend, obviously founded by Rytis and his co-founder, and you can see how his revenue has scaled over the past couple of years. But look how he was stuck back there in 2019. You see that point on the graph? Stuck under $3 million of revenue, bootstrapped. How can he beat his other competitors in the space? Well, he did it with this one worksheet. One worksheet. And what this worksheet is his programmatic and organic SEO play. How do I get free clicks from Google? So every piece of content he puts out, his content team has to fill out this worksheet. This is one of those you take a screenshot of, you drop it in your Slack channel, and you send it to whoever your head of marketing or head of growth is or head of SEO is. This is the framework that has worked for him. Notice he's pointing out, if we win this keyword, AI email marketing, it's gonna drive 150 clicks per month for free. Who currently ranks number 1, 2, 3, 4 for that keyword? Well, here's everyone we're trying to beat. The URL's in the upper right. If you don't understand why you're putting the content together, you don't know what board game you're playing, and therefore you don't know how to win. So you have to define the board game and decide how to win before you start doing it. Now, did this work for him? Well, you can see that orange graph didn't start taking off until 2019, 2020. 0 organic traffic from Google, up to 200,000 clicks per month organic from Google in the upper right. What did this do to his revenue? It grew. Now, if you're still debating if you should invest in SaaS, take a look at this. This is the future of SaaS sales in terms of PLG. Everyone's going to be asking these AI, ChatGPT applications, hey, what's the best email marketing tool? Who should I use? And if you don't come up in the results, you basically don't exist on Google, right? And the way to get included in a bunch of these AI conversations and these AI-driven results is to have a strong SEO and backlinking program. So you want to get ahead of that curve today. Here's how his team looks. If you want to reverse engineer how Omnisend has built their growth team, you can see the SEO lead reports up to the VP of growth. The dark green content team also reports to the VP of growth, and the dark green came first, then the light green came. So sequence accordingly as you scale, right? Don't obviously start with all these folks when you're less than $1 million of revenue. And that's what that growth looks like. Now, let's jump into case study number 2. Who's used or heard of Odoo? Odoo.com, raise your hand high. Incredible story. Let's go back to the original website. This is his revenue growth. Fabian launched this when he was 25 years old in 2006, and look how long he was stuck below $5 million of revenue. Almost a decade until his mid-30s. What did the original website look like? It looked like this. This looks almost nothing like software, right? In fact, what he said is, I want to go build an open source application and make all these business tools free for users. That's why he called it Open ERP. And he stood behind it. This is a shot of his GitHub account. You can see for this open source community, it reached a maximum commits per day from engineers of about 400 commits per day back in 2012. And you can see that bottom right there, that's Fabian's own GitHub account. So he was pushing code himself aggressively, over 5,236 commits over the past decade. So he's also contributing back. The question becomes that when you build an open source, how do you start charging without pissing off the open source community? Right? So you can see he launched, you're going to see in a second, he launched his paywall when the revenue started taking off in 2015. And this is what he launched with, all these applications with a premium layer on top of the open source code. And so when we look at when he started to scale 2018, 2019, I was fortunate enough back in 2019, well before he took off, when he was about 1/30th of the size he is today, I said, you got to come on and tell us how you're growing. Let's learn from Fabian.
We are in MRR, we are $2.6 million per month and or 65% per year.
And so how many customers do you have today?
11,000.
Okay, 11 million would be a lot.
we actually have 4 million of users because we do have a lot of free users because of the open source nature of Odoo.
You guys catch that? 4 million users, 11,000 paid. What's that conversion rate? 0.2875%. I want you to say good or bad on the count of 3. Is that a good or bad free to paid conversion rate? 0.28%. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, bad. You want to see like 3 to 5% conversion rate. But the good thing for him is all this code being written was from other people. They weren't full-time employees he was paying. It was an open source community. So who cares if he's only converting 11,000? He still grew to $2 million a month in revenue on top of this open source community. What he did with open source is the equivalent to what us marketers and salespeople do when we build Slack communities or Facebook groups. This is just the engineering version, right? It's the power of building open source. These 2 rows, one of them is Shopify's numbers and one of them is Odoo's numbers. On the count of 3, I want you to tell me which one, top or bottom, you think is Odoo's numbers. 1, 2, 3. Top. I heard top and bottom. Bottom is Shopify. Odoo's beating Shopify on every metric. The top row is beating the bottom row. Odoo's beating on every metric except online websites, which is a lagging indicator to usage. You get your website live after you start using Odoo. So I believe that Odoo is primed to be bigger than Shopify in terms of revenue in the next 5 years. Talk about a European story that I think is going to crush one of the North American companies. I believe very strongly Fabian and his team at Odoo is well positioned to do this, and he's already doing it. Because his code is effectively free, he gets R&D arbitrage. So look, he just launched Shopify for free. You can see the pricing plan on the screen right now. This is a PLG motion, right? Incredible story. And here's his P&L. Can you see the R&D line item there? Do you see what he's spending on research and development? It's about $20 to $30 million annually on how much revenue? $320 million. What percent is that? 10% of his total revenue spent on R&D. I imagine most of you guys, if you think about what you pay your engineers, divided by your revenue, it is way higher than 10%. Some of you might be pushing 50, 60, 70%. Again, how does he do this? Well, because it's open source, right? A lot of those engineers are pushing code for free. He's building on top of it, and that's what's driven growth. We're wrapping up section 1 now with the third case study, which is Aircall. How did they scale from $720,000 of revenue up to $8 million of revenue? Well, they did one thing. If you look at this revenue growth graph back in 2015 and 2016, right before they took off. So let's go study it. This is what they did. Every week for 52 weeks straight, this is what they did. What does this create 3, 4, 5 years later? This kind of traffic, right? So you've got Zoom, which they launched integration with, and Salesforce, which they launched integration with, driving him in August 15,000 free clicks. This is the power of using OPT, other people's traffic, right? Riding the whale by having this sort of integration strategy, which they've done really well. If you don't have any integrations yet, here are 14 ideas for you. Again, don't do all of them, but depending on whatever you're building, these are 14 app exchanges. You should definitely be in one of these, right? If you want to get other people's traffic. Here's the summary of section 1. We've got about 8 minutes and 50 seconds left, so it's a quick screenshot, and we're jumping into section 2. How do we get leads? Let's first learn from Binder. Here's the revenue growth. Binder is a digital asset management platform launched by Chris Hall all the way back in 2013, and this was his original website, right? Launched actually as an agency in 2012. So how did he scale? Well, notice he was stuck before he went from 20 to 40 million. He was stuck. I said, Chris, come on the show. Tell me how you've done it. And so let's take a second here and learn from Chris Hall.
Close to 30K US dollars a year. And then there's the larger customers that are upwards from 100 up to, we're getting close to the million mark. So we started end of 2013, or we were incorporated there. It was a spin-off of Label A development agency I started in 2008.
If there's a cheat code to launching a software company, it's to start with an agency. If there's any silver bullet, that's the quickest silver bullet I've seen, is to start with an agency. So much so that Chris did this as an agency, and he was cashing a $300 million secondary check on his 47th birthday when they did this deal. He's now out as CEO because he's rich, and we like rich. Even in Europe, we like rich, right? I think we do. Americans love rich. We love rich over here too. So he's doing well. Bob Hickey has stepped in. And let me just give you a quick trivia. You guys recognize these agencies? Recognize them? They all turned into billion-dollar SaaS companies. If you don't know what SaaS you want to build, launch an agency. It's the quickest way to build a successful SaaS company. All right, that's the Binder story. Let's jump into section 2, which is all about founder brand. I have a real problem with this section. I built it and I said, I don't know if the Europeans are going to like this or not, because it's very cocky, it's very American, it's very egotistical, it's very like flex your tricep on stage sort of thing and make everyone take pictures. But founder brand is very important because people buy if they believe the founder knows their problem. And you sell that through founder story. So how do we do this at Latka? Let me ask you a couple, which is my second SaaS company. What would it mean if you built an email list where every email you sent got 1,400 clicks to anywhere you wanted, right? What if you could use your founder brand to get on any cable station you wanted by just texting the producer? Go around a 10 grand a month PR firm, get it for free. What would that mean for your SaaS company? Right? What would it mean if you could write a book about your industry, redefine a category, sell 30,000 copies, have it hit the Wall Street Journal bestseller list, rank number 3, beat Brene Brown, beat Yako, beat a bunch of just incredible authors? What would that mean for your SaaS business? Lastly, what if you said, you know what, I'm going to keep going on the founder brand. What if I launch a magazine with your last name as the title, focused on your industry, and you also charge for it on Stripe and sell $2 million worth of the magazine? What would that mean in terms of lead gen for your software company? And lastly, what about that podcast you guys all launched about a year ago, did 3 episodes of, and then forgot about? You said, to hell with this. I can't do it anymore. What if you stayed consistent and you grew that to over 12 million downloads? This is the power of founder brand if you do it well. We used each of these tactics to grow GetLatka.com, which is sort of a side project SaaS software company that I use, to 0 to 150 grand a month in revenue. I then used all that leverage. That founder brand stays with you for life. And I refocused it a couple years ago on Founder Path and used that influence and brand to launch a $150 million fund, which is now what I'm doing full time. That fund is investing debt into software founders. So you have a $5 million of revenue. We give you $1 million of debt. You pay it back over 4 years. You keep all your equity. I got screwed early on by selling too much equity at my first SaaS. That's why we're doing this. But this is the power of founder brand. And we've earmarked $20 million of our fund to invest here in French startups that are post-revenue B2B SaaS. So we're going to keep building that. But when I tell folks in Europe, I say, hey, build your founder brand, they say, but Nathan, will people accuse me of not being focused? My team won't like it. Or my investors will say, oh my gosh, your ego's too big on social media. And what I would say is founder market fit is more important than product market fit, because you can't build the product until you have the empathy. And the empathy comes from your actual founder story. So you have to build that and nail that founder market fit first before product-led growth. Very quickly, here's how I think about our life as entrepreneurs. We all start in the bottom left. We get paid to do individual tasks. Eventually, we do these tasks effectively. We have extra cash, and we stop trading time for money, and we start building things like software. Most of you go software first and no media. My argument would be these things that you build once and sell forever, zero marginal cost, the software and the media should work together. They should promote each other in a vicious cycle that creates a real defensible moat for your business. Most of us forget this step. And then lastly, once you make a lot of money on the building phase, then your money works for you. You start investing, right, in equity and debt. I mean, this is when people say, Nathan, what are you doing? How's your whole plan work together? This is it. I mean, this is the mental model, the post-it note on my computer that I shared with my mom back when I was 19 years old. Like, this is what I'm building for the next 60 years. It's how you build wealth, I think, as a software founder in today's age. So the book is equal to a podcast, equal magazine, equals code. It's all, you build it once, you sell it over and over. They're just as powerful as each other, so don't neglect any of them. Let's wrap up with section 3 of section 2, which is the miracle story. 0 to 160 million bucks of revenue very quick. Here's their business model. They sell to e-commerce brands. They sit on top of the GMV, though, $8 billion of transaction volume processed through the system. And this is what we call SaaS Plus. The most valuable companies in the world today in software almost all have a plus, right? So you start as pure play SaaS, and then you add a plus. If you're curious about what that plus could be for you, here are 6 ideas. Add professional services, add a percentage GMV, add a marketplace, add freemium, add media like Freight Waves. This is the idea of SaaS Plus. It helps you build a defensible moat for your software business. Right, for your software business. That's miracle. Here's a summary slide for section 2. I'll leave it up for 5 seconds before we wrap up with the last section. Again, all about leads. Let's wrap up with section 3, sales. Let's talk about Bird first. We heard about the price war they launched earlier this year. Here's Robert's revenue growth. Right, and you can see this a little bit bigger here. And this is what the original website looked like, just pure text messaging to start, right? Now, as he scaled, I got his Series A deck, and you can see here the net revenue retention in that Series A deck, $60 million deal, well over 150% net dollar retention. Obviously, very, very, very healthy net dollar retention metrics. He used this, and this is what his P&L looked like at the time. Now, do you guys see the huge expense on this P&L? What is way too big on this P&L? You guys see it? Yell it out. You guys, I heard it whispered. Network, cost of network. Cost of network is 100% of revenue. Many people look at this and go, there's no business here. You're paying 100% cost of revenue. What's going on? Well, Robert's smart. He goes, okay, that's my biggest cost structure, $229 million against $250 top line. How do I save that $229 million? You acquire and you vertically integrate. Right, so he acquires SparkPost, which is the CPaaS layer that now saves him all those expenses. Now, I see a lot of you guys with your phones. If I'm moving too quickly and there's a lot of data here, all you have to do is take a picture of any time I'm presenting, put a quick story on LinkedIn, tag me, and I'll DM you tonight the full slide deck so you have it, 105 slides. That's good, right? You guys like that little, I just snuck that in there. You like that? When he made that move, now today generating $87 million of EBITDA before the price war launch, he said, look, I want to get more market share from Twilio. Let's take it to our US competitors. I love an aggressive European. Let's take it to our US competitors and launch a price war. Will Bird beat Twilio long term? We'll see. We don't have a good answer yet, right? But the war is on, and if you want to launch a price war with your competitors, this should be your checklist, right? This should be your checklist. So that's the Bird story. Let's launch into case study number 8. We got one more after this, then we're going to wrap. Content Square. Jonathan's done an incredible job, sells to e-commerce brands. You can see his revenue growth here. And what I want you guys to see here is this was his website back in 2012. Now you see expertise at your service to answer questions. There's nothing on here that says pay for our software. It's almost pure agency model, pure services. Again, that's the cheat code to launching SaaS. Here's his P&L. He launched AI back in 2017, 2018 when net sales broke 9.6 million and 7.2 million was only in France. So he hadn't even began international expansion yet. So what did this look like? Well, when he's at this level, look, he's still selling tons of services. This is the website in 2017, right? This is SaaS plus services, right? Creates lock-in and stickiness. When you touch a customer at the start with services, they stick longer on the SaaS product. Net dollar retention goes through the roof. So they launch AI, they get their first $1 million customer, and what I want to show you is the following. A lot of you launching AI right now, you put it on your website homepage. We are the thing with AI added. What Content Square did, which is smart, is they don't even really market the AI. They build the AI into their tool to drive usage, and they trust their pricing model, which is tied to usage. So revenue will grow if the AI works well and increases productivity. This headline is the productivity. I mean, that is a lot of usage. How can you do the same at your company, right? How can you do the same at your company, right? Don't market the AI, market the use, drive the usage, which drives the revenue. Here's this product suite today, right? Product suite today. Right? It won't shock me to see these guys break $500 million next year. I mean, incredible growth story, a lot of AI. Jonathan's a smart guy with a lot of patents. Lastly, Armand's here today. You'll hear from him later today, but Brevo, email marketing tool. How did they scale so quickly, 0 to 150 million bucks of revenue? Well, again, here's the revenue growth graph, and they started this all the way back in 2019. A lot of us think we can't do acquisitions until we have 100 million bucks of revenue, but I can tell you there are companies with 2 million of ARR buying Chrome extensions for $1,000 and growing very quickly by buying that traffic or buying the usage for free or very cheap. Armand has done this well. If you're trying to think, how can I go buy a company for under $1,000, here are 6 places to look. Right? Here are 6 places to look. Go find free tools on the Google Chrome store. Look at other big app exchanges. Email your user base and say, what other tools do you use? Then go buy those tools, etc. M&A sites, technologies, and lastly, only go here if you have to, bankers. Right? Lastly, bankers. Now, you're going, Nathan, you're full of shit. Give me some examples. Well, here's Lemlist, bought Taplio for $3 million. Guy found this deal by emailing his user base. They said, hey, Lemlist, what do you use? They said, we use Taplio. They went and bought Taplio. Here's the deal structure. It's right there. Right? Very little cash up front. Here's another one. Blackthorn paid $1.2 million for 550K of ARR. You'd say that's a great multiple, fairly cheap, only 2x. Here's how he structured his deal on the right side. And lastly, this is one of the deals that I did actually back a couple years ago, and you guys can see there where it says, whoa. Because it says MX Hero, the company I bought, pays Nathan $15K. So this was a negative $15,000 to take over this company. And the second line there says there's a 250,000 person email list that comes with it. So I got paid $15K a couple years ago to take over a 250,000 person email list. What would that do for your SaaS brand? Opportunities are there. You got to go find them. Right now, that full story of how that M&A happened is on page 176 of my book. I was giving them out this morning. Unfortunately, we're already out. I brought 100. They're already gone. But you guys can see my board deck, my tax returns, how we did those early M&A deals. This book is a story of my first SaaS and all the crazy things that worked and didn't work. I encourage you guys to check it out. Again, we are already out, so I apologize for that. But how to be a capitalist without any capital. Here's a summary slide of section 3. We talked about the price war, AI playbook, cheap ARR through M&A. Right? And as we wrap up, again, the next slide is the money slide. It's the full summary of the full deck, and I'm going to walk off the stage. I'd recommend taking a picture of the next slide just so you have it. It's the full summary. If you just came in late, it's what you want to get. So get your phones ready. I'm only going to leave it up for about 5 seconds. Then I'm going to walk off the stage. So here it is. Traffic, leads, and sales. I told you about 19 minutes ago I was going to deliver these 9 case studies. I hope you feel you learned something. I'll be hanging out all day today. Again, take this picture, put it on LinkedIn, tag me, tag the conference. I'll get you the slide deck tonight. My name is Nathan Latka with FounderBath. Guys, thank you so much for your time this morning. Appreciate it. Thank you.